Mic check, mic check. Those who have been here know what it's like when the end of video rant comes on with no sound. Year of the bull. Big shout out. February, March, I said $50,000, $60,000 would likely be the next cycle bottom. That's exactly where I was putting it as well. I said $55,000. If I'm putting some out there, I want to be as accurate as I believe is possible. Over the weekend, yesterday, looking at this chart, year of the bull, step ahead, I wanted to share with you, and I also believe the same thing Miss Config is saying here. Now he thinks maybe it's going to be $65,000. And that's the page I'm on. When I'm looking at this chart and I'm looking what happened in past cycles, it makes sense that this area over here where the mid-cycle high was put in is going to be what the next bear market low. Now, if that happens and we have an 85% drawdown, I mean, we're potentially looking at something like $420,000 Bitcoin. That's right here. That's within my price prediction. Here's the sweet spot, but that's well within the range. That's well within the range that CTM is putting out. 420. It's towards the top of the range though. That would be towards the top of the range. It's possible. It's probable if that is indeed what is the coming bear market low and that we do have that 85% drawdown. So I'm prepared for it. I'm prepared for it from multiple vantage points because there's a big difference in looking for perhaps Bitcoin to break $100,000 in 2021 and maybe something like middle of 2022, higher prices, or understanding what's unfolding and how it's unfolding. Here you go. You could see the bear market low in the previous cycle occurring December 2018. Follow it back to the left, and you could see it was right above the high of the mid-cycle shakeout. Go back next time into 2015, where you see that bear market low. Bring it back to the left, and you could see it was that first wave of the two waves in the 2012 cycle, the 2013 bull market. Is that going to happen again? I don't know. People didn't know if the golden ratio was going to hold ahead of time. A lot of people believe that it wasn't going to hold. Year of the bull, sound and strong. Look, the advantage of a model is you expect it to hold, and then you know if it breaks, when and where it breaks. That's the advantage. What's worked for me, what's had massive results for me, is front running this roadmap in this cycle. It's why I was looking for the capitulation bottom and called it as it happened in December 2019, and then 4 weeks later called the massive move up. Not because of anything other than understanding the 4-year cycle in Bitcoin. This is high quality content put out each and every day. If you're not yet subscribed to the channel, go ahead and do so. Exactly what your life would look like if you were a millionaire. The truth is you would have a lot of the same concerns, consistently working hard to grow as a person and develop fruitful, loving relationships all around you. Your greatest concern in life would still be your health and the health of those around you. There would be one main difference though, and it's an important one. You would no longer have to worry about money. You would have the freedom to do what you wanted, when you wanted. You would have control. Financial freedom is the freedom to be able to make choices. The choices about what you do with your most precious resource, your time, who you spend it with, and where and what you do with it. I want you to open yourself up as we begin to talk about what it takes to become rich trading. Traders are often very concerned with how much money they can make and how quickly they can make it. And each day and each trading session is approached as almost the improbable or impossible. The reason I want to share this formula with you is because it's very important to have the correct mindset, the mindset of an investor. And it's important to focus on this formula for the bigger picture. And this is going to help you to be able to execute, which is what you need to do in order to achieve your goals. You need to be able to execute. So let's take a look. Starting with a $3,000 balance. How do you get there? How do you achieve your goals? Where are you starting from? You're starting with just a $3,000 balance today, and you are committing to making for the next 5 years, regularly, yearly, another $3,000 deposit. What is that? Like $260 or so a month. Go ahead and take a look, and the rate of return. You know, holding Bitcoin, what do you think you could do? What do you think you could achieve yearly? I think the average rate of return annually is something closer to about 120%. Take a look at some of these numbers. 2017, 1300, 2020, 300, that's 2019, 87, and 2018, 72. These two cancel each other out. You're looking over 4 years, 1600 divided by 4. You're looking at 400% a year. There you go. Mean annual return, 400%, showing the percent change for every year into Bitcoin. It's a couple of down years. 2022, right? Good chance it's a down year as well. That's what I'm expecting. Not being invested, whether that's worth it to you during these bear market years, it could have a significant change in your overall accumulation. That's for some more advanced stuff. So you can see, even if we did experience something like drastically diminishing returns, instead of 400% over the last 4 years, maybe we're looking something forward at like 200%. But even if we only get 70%, what happens if you use something realistic? What happens if you use something like a 30% return over the next 5 years in Bitcoin? You're looking at taking a total deposit over 5 years, $18,000, and growing your account to $46,000. That's only over a 5-year period. But it's also with a 30% return. I think that I personally expect to achieve over a 70% return annually in Bitcoin over the next, 10 years? Absolutely. So let's take a look at that. Let's make that 10 years, 70%. I think underestimating greatly over there. We'll see. We don't know. I think it's safe. I think it's safe to work out my plan using 70% expected return in Bitcoin over the next 10 years. And then you're taking that $33,000, you're turning it into $2 million. Now, $2 million is comfortable. You could basically buy whatever you want whenever you need it. Really very comfortable. But the thing is, when I first started doing this, I did this with 11 years. It was an 11-year plan with 3 halving events. And if you really want to plan this out correctly, starting today, you could go ahead over the next 11 years, expect to have 3 more halving events. Next one, it's every 210,000 blocks. Next one, estimate 20,024, 20,028, 20,032. But the thing is the bull market happens the year after the halving. So you're going to want to make this a 12-year plan, 70% annual return. And now you're looking, total deposits over those 12 years, $39,000, $3,000 a year. You're committing to this plan, to your investment plan. And then you're looking at, $5 million if we hit our expected 70%. Anything could happen. Understand your risk and what your risk is before you make any investment, and do not invest any more than you could afford to lose. But make sure you make calculated risks. Is this a calculated risk? Now, if there was just an 85% annual return in Bitcoin over the next 12 years, you would be looking at something, $15 million. That's from here on up. You go on borderline ridiculous for a 12-year plan. But 70%, 12 years, next 3 halvings. You're starting today. $5 million is rich. $2 million, you're definitely comfortable, no question about that. But $5 million, I would say that it's a great plan to have in place. I think it's foundational, fundamental, that anyone beginning before anything else should have this plan in place. And then you could go ahead and leverage different investments. Why does it matter? If we're experiencing diminishing returns, then we want to be following a roadmap, a guide that is giving us that clarity that we could position in and out. If you're just buying Bitcoin and holding it for the next 10 years, you don't have to do anything. You could walk away. But if you're trying over those next 2 years, where you already have that fundamental plan in place to acquire as much Bitcoin as you can, and doing it in a very calculated, risk-averse way, then it really matters to understand these price movements. 150 days, that's a small time frame to be looking at and considering for this type of investment. The 2012 cycle, you can see here in 2013, peaking higher. This is 11x, an 11x, 7x. Are we going to see something like a 9x, something in the average of the two? As we've seen up until this point, this cycle has been an average in volatility to the upside. It's been an average of the 2 cycles in volatility to the downside. And as far as consolidation and sideways so far up until this point, it's been an average of the 2. Will the return also be a 9x? If I can get it, I want it all. I will take what the market gives me, though. Honestly, if you're not part of the training program, if you're not with us on the Discord, and you have not watched all the training videos that we put together, that I put together, whether it's how to trade and profit from the markets on a swing trader's perspective, focused on the currency markets so that you could trade all markets, or specifically the Bitcoin exit series, talking about what that cycle peak looks like, talking about how Bitcoin and altcoins react with each other. That stuff done months ago. Everything that we said is playing out. Absolute fire.
I'm really bullish, but I'm not naive. This is the most important 9 years that will probably happen in the next several thousand years.
Agreed. I agreed that this is a very critical juncture in human history. We need to act with a concerted effort to push society in what I believe you deem is the right direction, a direction of freedom and away from digital slavery.
Why is this epic clash seem to be concluding at 2030? How is that timing so perfect? Yeah, I'm with you. Did authoritarianism, is it taking a step too far when it attempts to permanently eliminate the free will of every person? If it attempts to turn people into zoo animals, at what point are you offending God where he, lifts his finger and allows something like a Bitcoin to slay authoritarianism, to slay money printing forever? I don't know. I mean, I think there's something to that, right? I think there's something to, people say like, oh, why doesn't God stop like a baby from dying or stop this terrible disease? I don't think it's God's purpose to stop tragedy and suffering, right? Like he created humans, and humans are finite and we have faults. So all the tragedy and suffering is coming from us, right? I think that suits God just fine, because despite all that suffering, you get people who still want good, who still turn to him, who actually come to learn that the suffering is important because you turn to God. But I think where you might really test or tempt him is when you say, I'm actually going to eliminate the ability for people to have free will, the ability for people to turn towards good, the ability for people to build themselves up and become someone that is worthy of God. And so that's where there's, when people talk about this as a cabal and they talk about it as Satan worshiping, yes, that can sound very, colorful and all the things that people used to discredit it as conspiracy theory. But at the same time, there's some real weight to the fact that what authoritarianism attempts to do is completely eliminate free will. And free will is the one mechanism that you can use to steer yourself towards God. And so not to say that, Bitcoin is God's money or Bitcoin is God, but I think there's merit to the idea that it might be an instrument that basically is just saying, nah, that's a step too far. We're going to make you redo it, and this time without the ability to perpetrate mass usury on the entire planet.
Good morning, CTM. Wow, what a beautiful intro. So happy to be sharing this moment in time with all of you. That's some powerful stuff right there. I don't know how to follow up after that kind of lead. Talking about some profound things. Bitcoin is a lot of things to a lot of people. It's, listen, it's important that we understand at its highest form what Bitcoin is, right? Bitcoin is fair and just. All right, listen, if you haven't seen that podcast, you need to watch it, Tales from the Crypt. Just go back, you can get the name of it. Make sure you listen to that whole thing. I've listened to it 3 or 4 times. Greg's a little bit ahead of me, but I'm catching up, right? By the way, Greg was asking, hey, what's going on, Jordan? Do you remember some time ago you were discussing that 4 to 5 step move into Bitcoin price top, right? The 5 steps in the Bitcoin price blow off top. As we get towards liftoff, Greg, as we're entering liftoff, we'll be focusing like laser focused. And those will still be on my profile on Twitter, those laser eyes, because I'm going to make sure that we talked about, Willie Woo was talking about, after price comes off and confirms it's a bear market, right? Price comes off 70% in those first 6 weeks. On the bounce back up, he likes to exit. I'm like, no, we're price action traders. We could see it coming ahead of time. We're exiting on the top, right? When it's the easiest exit. as price goes up. Greg, we'll make sure to be looking at that as we get going further. Craig, we do, right? We do have a training session after this one. I was thinking last week, how are we going to continue doing this, right? How do we bring the fire here 5 days a week and then go ahead and do that on Tuesdays and Thursdays for training session? How we can make that even better. But yes, absolutely looking forward to it. Dave, we got a strong Alan Au session. He's been on fire on Twitter. We're going to take a look at some on-chain analytics. We're going to take a look at some analysis. And then really, we're going to make it interesting as Alan brings up what could be happening here with potential diminishing returns as the adoption cycle flattens, but due to miners fees. So all right, let's get into it. We are looking, by the way, this is Jordan with Conquer Trading and Investing. I'm so glad that you know what, as the intro's playing this morning and everyone's saying good morning, I couldn't only help but feel so grateful to be a part of all this, to be able every morning to share this moment in time with all of you as we continue to execute this massive strategy, this massive plan that's going ahead and creating a ripple that's going to transverberate throughout the world and change people's lives, right? It's the mission from the beginning of this channel on the About section. My goal is to help as many people around the world live better lives, So to do that together with you each and every day, Enrica, look, I'm going to bookmark this right now. I'm going to take a screenshot of this so I remember. And we'll do that, but not here right now today. All right, let's get into it. What else are we looking at this morning? 836 people here to begin. If you're here now, please go ahead and help support the channel. Smash that like button. And if you don't do that now, just keep it in mind. As soon as something is shared, throughout these next 45 minutes, that really helps you see with greater clarity, go ahead and in return just smash that like button. Replay crew, big shout out to you. I hope you're doing well today. I really do. We're looking at Bitcoin trading right now above the most important trend line in crypto, right? That's good. This happens every cycle. In mid-cycle, when I say mid-cycle, I mean midway, not between the 4-year cycle, but midway between the bull market phase, and it has a correction. And in that correction, it price consolidates. But coming out of that correction, that's the second half of the bull market. It's the double wave into liftoff. It's the most important part to really, the awareness that we have has helped a lot of people position in at the right times. Myself, you all know that, look, I talked about, for many, breaking the most important trend line in crypto, the breakout itself, even though normally as traders, we don't take breakouts. We only take breakout, and then after the retest, the resumption out. But on Bitcoin and altcoins, because Bitcoin is the rising tide that lifts all boats, right? Look, you take the breakout especially during the bull market phase, right? And then some of you said, all right, well, I'm going to play it safe and I'll wait for that first pullback and then the resumption off. Also good entries, but some people are still deciding on whether or not it's a good time to buy Bitcoin. Some people are waiting for that break to the new all-time high around $65,000 to feel that it has proven itself. And listen, by the time we're up here, the potential return coming into the cycle peak, it just starts dwindling and dwindling. Many of you were able even to be more aggressive than myself, between $30,000 and $39,000, continuing to dollar cost average and position in. I took 2 buys on spot, 39,000 and 33,500. And then when I started getting back into the market, you all know, I took an entry first coming out of that first correction right there. I took an entry that was stopped out. It was a 10% loss, right? 10% loss, 5% loss of a $200,000 account, right? And then right after it, the next day, I showed you what the next entry was going to look like. Nailed that. This is potential risk to reward here that I have on of 50 to 1. And that's with Bitcoin under $100,000, right? That's with Bitcoin. Am I taking profit here? No, the trade hasn't even gotten started. Listen, I don't know if it's going to work out or not, but I'm managing my risk accordingly. Already took one loss. That was coming off of, let's say from the start of the bull market, starting with, what was it, $52,000. This is on a BlockFi account, right? And then after watching that grow to 250, it was $300,000 at the time I took the trade. I took a risk 5% on that, stopped out, and then I took my entry, my second entry, and we'll see what happens. It's looking good, right? What was I getting at? Why was I talking about that? Well, that deserves a smash to the like button just for itself, right? Because many people are late, right? Was I a little early? Look, I was calculated early and everyone knew why. And I made it a point to let everyone know why I was doing it when I was doing it. Lots of people are taking profits already, right? This is not the move that I'm looking to achieve on Bitcoin, right? Look at this little time period that we're looking at, price coming from 39,000 into 46,000, What I'm potentially looking at over here as we're breaking out mid-cycle, is if we just match the return of the 2017 bull market phase from when it broke out mid-cycle till its cycle peak, that's a 7x. And if we just match that and have another 7x, that's taking us where? It's taking us around somewhere around $350,000, right? So I'm not looking to take profit on a few $1,000 move on Bitcoin, nor am I on a $30,000 move, right? I do think that we're going to break out to new all-time highs, and from there, obviously not stop. But I'm not looking to take profit under 30. Am I going to take the profit under a $100,000? We'll talk about it as it unfolds. That in itself is a 50 to 1. Whether or not I lighten up towards that point and then or add to it. What I'm sharing with you this morning is my time preference, right? And I just want everyone over right now to understand. Jonathan, thanks for for supporting the channel. I appreciate that a lot, my friend. Listen, a lot of people are trading aggressively in and out, right? That's not always the most effective way to go about things, right? If I were to be trading on a short time preference, am I getting ready here to cover or hedge this position over here if we were to break this trend line over here, assuming that we, good odds, good chance that probably this is not the move where the Bears had their chance, right? Like when I say the Bears had their chance, it was into the resistance of the most important trend line of crypto. That's when they had their opportunity to attack. This was the extent of their move, and the bulls took it and ran. That's what we were looking for, right? And we were wondering, probably doesn't break on the first knock, but I'm interested to see what happens on the second, right? Because if the Bears can't hold it there and the bulls are running strong, that was the Alamo, I called it, the last stand for the Bears. So is this the place that if you were bearish on Bitcoin or bullish even, that you're looking to exit your position, right? You're looking to exit your position obviously significantly higher. I think something under, as you come in towards $100,000, whether it's $94,000 or whatever it is, in my opinion, for my view, the way that I placed my bet, right? The way that I'm speculating the markets, that's early exit. We'll see what happens. Boom, boom, boom. But watch if we break this trend line here. If you're trading on the short term over here, watch. We should be falling towards this support line over there, and that should hold. This should continue to hold the whole way out of this next wave. The first wave here, we're looking at two waves approximately. We're looking at two waves approximately. I don't really think that's the right word. As accurate as that we could assess is that we're looking at over the next 120 days, two waves. The first one already in process, and then leading up to liftoff, that 35 days in that cycle peak. Greg, we will nail it. We're gonna be watching it's the most effective way to do it. You saw it. If you saw it, it's imprinted on your mind. This is the bearish case for Bitcoin, right? And right now it's on hold. Until we break this trend line over there, if you are bearish on Bitcoin, you have no business, attacking. Now, there are people that were looking at the 200-day moving average, and there are people that might be looking at, this area of supply, hold on, let me be able to draw, within that range over there, maybe they're going to be looking to sell Bitcoin. I don't know. Right now, the bears don't have it in them. Listen, Bitcoin is just doing what it does. And if that changes, we will be there. We'll be watching. This is a 2-hour time frame, right? I have plenty of time to catch the earliest opportunity of any type of attack by the sellers. Bitcoin on the 8-hour, looking for the bullish case of Bitcoin. It's just, listen, what was happening is during this whole pullback, this period over here, we were really just trying to keep the awareness for everyone that we are mid-cycle, that our expectations have become that the risk is beginning to be to the upside, and then using technical analysis, we masterfully played out everything that has occurred since, right? Right now is the time, if you're not yet positioned into Bitcoin, people are going to be asking as we start getting higher and higher, and the FOMO is going to get realer and realer. They're going to be making some poor decisions, right? And a lot of people on the way up, because almost anyone could do well on the way up, right? And it's a question of if you're smart enough to be able to continue to build that and then keep it. When I'm looking at price making that new all-time high, $65,000, I know that, and I'm not, well, my spot position's bigger because I added to it, right? But my tradable position would significantly increase. Way more than the return that I did on spot, obviously, and way more of a return that I did on BlockFi lending against Bitcoin. By the way, that will be a 20x as price reaches $100,000. If price reaches $200,000, that's a 40x. But what I'm able to do trading is obviously it's in a different league compared to what those type of returns are. And in this area, this was an opportunity as we come back up. My potential my gains of where I am are going to be greater than they were the last time we were at that high because of being able to reposition out, coming out of over here at the right time. And I hope many of you are seeing that as well, right? When I talk about Bitcoin $55,000 being cheap, I hope that you are able to understand why, right? So listen, we did our best to get everyone as possible with us here. And I know that CTM is strong right now. I know that over the next 4 or 5 months, as potentially this cycle comes to a peak, an apex, and a conclusion, that many of CTM are coming out significantly stronger, and that's going to be a good time. It's going to be a really good time. Are we running out of time? You should be positioned by now, right? That's what I'm getting at. All right. This is just showing 11x from, this is 2013, when price breaks out of what was the most important trend line in crypto, the consolidation of the mid-cycle. You could see from price, from the breakout to that cycle peak over that next 150 days from the low, right? When I say 150 days, plus or minus 2 days or 3 days, whatever. It's 150 days from the cycle low to that top with an 11x. In 2017, we saw the same thing occur. We saw, and this was less, right? The degree of the consolidation, and it was only a 40% drawdown. It was a lot shorter, a lot less than that previous one that was happening in 2013, which was really long, right? And lasted a long time. In that 2021, we're seeing that same thing occur. It's longer than the last time, how long it took to consolidate. The price went down 53% instead of 40%. And here we are coming out to the upside. If we just match that performance of last cycle and have another 700% return or 7x, we're looking at price trading at $350,000, right? Now, is it possible that we see under that we have something like legitimately diminishing returns and we see a 3x from here, $120,000? I hope not. That I don't even reach my goal of 140,000 mission accomplished if that were to occur. I would be disappointed. I suppose anything could happen, but I don't see that. There's nothing that's happened up until now that would give me that would lead me to believe that's what the outcome is going to be, right? Could it potentially be higher? Yeah, that would make a lot of sense if it was higher than a 7x, being that so far to date, this cycle has been an average of the two, right? Now, is it possible in a couple of weeks when the Fed and the central banksters get to meet in Jackson Hole, Wyoming, that they introduce something to the market that completely derails Bitcoin's bull market over the next 4 or 5 months? Well, listen, I don't think they're going to do anything that's going to derail the financial system in the next 4 or 5 months. I think what they're doing is trying to keep that music playing as long as possible, right? So they're trying to make things as smooth as possible. And they like right now as everything is flowing in the direction it's flowing. That's my base case. We'll see what happens. I think we're going to have massive FOMO in this upside over here. It's going to be family offices. It's going to be large institutions, perhaps an ETF in the mix, more likely other sovereign nations. And then who's going to be the last one? Is it something going to be like Paraguay or Mexico adopts Bitcoin as their standard, right? And then all of a sudden, who's the next country? Maybe there's human psychological behavior, added with coded monetary supply. It's what we're doing. It's what we're following over here, right? Price continues to trade above the 2016 cycle and below the 2012. It continues so far to be an average of the two. We are looking to see, I'm wondering right now if we continue to come out resembling somewhere closer now to 2017 bull market phase, slightly outperforming to the upside, still being an average of the two. Wow. Good morning, CTM. Good morning. I can't wait to get into Alan Al stuff. Oh no, did I do all that with no, I didn't. I turned them off. Phew. I thought maybe I had over the screen those comments covering. I just did a 20-minute rant with the screen covered to some degree. All right. Let's take the FOMO. Giles, the FOMO is going to be real. It's going to be real and it's going to be felt, and everyone's going to be saying, do you think that the on-chain analytics guys, are going to be adding to that FOMO when they start calling it the last cycle? Do you think that everyone's thinking that it's a super, everyone always thinks it's a super cycle. I remember December 2017, everyone out there thought it was a super cycle. Bitcoin, they thought Bitcoin, at this rate, it could go to $100,000 by next week. The FOMO is going to be real, and it's going to be fun to watch. And it's going to be fun to see in real time who gets it right and who doesn't, because it matters. You have to consult the people with a history of being on the right side. It all matters because it's a significant difference. If you think that Bitcoin over the next 4 or 5 months may or may not break $100,000, and that maybe sometime in 2022, Bitcoin then will be somewhere around $160,000. That really matters on the investments that you're making today, right? Compared to if you think that Bitcoin over the next 150 days, in 2021 has the potential, to peaking out somewhere between perhaps $280,000 and let's call it $380,000. I have the window. I stick by the window. It's right over here to between $260,000 and $410,000. When I say the sweet spot is between 250K and 320K, that's not a typo that I'm saying, the sweet spot is lower than the range. I'm doing that purposely to show you that it's impossible to predict price. Now, with that being said, it's not impossible to predict a range of where you think it's going to be at a certain time. We've been pretty spot on, right? And that's not a pun, but it's pretty spot on about the price of Bitcoin along its journey as that unfolds. All right. What's going on, everyone? It's Taco Tuesday. I'm waiting until we get to Alan Al's work before we play Head Snack. It's only appropriate to do so. So I'm just waiting that out over there. This is awesome by Jesse's, but just putting out some clean work over here. And, what's cool about this on TradingView is that here's the price. He put this out on the 27th of July. Oh, that's almost, wow, that's a while ago. It's almost 2 weeks ago. And then you could press play and see how things unfolded. And it's going to be neat as price comes in this range over here to see where it would be. Now, we don't know what's going to happen. When you're looking at this, people get confused and they think, oh, that means that they're expecting price to trade, at the same time, at the same place within these. No, like we'll see where price does, and whatever price does, we're just overlaying new data as it happens over past data. Now, does it happen that happens to line up specifically when you line these things up from different ways at different times along their 4-year cycle? Absolutely. You have to begin with the halving event. It's the first significant event that happens it's the cause of the 4-year cycle. It's the halving of the miner's reward. Now, we're going to look at perhaps potentially how when that lessens to such a degree that miners are making more money off of fees, that supply shock really won't affect the price of Bitcoin, right? And I see a lot of discussion from on-chain analytics, on-chain analysts, who think that this is the last cycle. We're in it right now. I want to know more about that. I want to know why. We'll talk about that a little later. Let's keep going. This is just, if you're joining us today for the first time and you made it here this long, do take an extra moment right now and make sure you subscribe to the channel. Stay with us. We're going to help you over time get to where you need to be, but it takes that time. It takes that investment of time. You have to invest your time and stop being in a rush to do things. People overestimate what they could do in 2 years and underestimate what they can do in 10, right? You could see from the very beginning over here, we have a 3 halving cycle plan, right? I'm already 1 cycle. I only have 2 more cycles to go to the completion of my plan, but I'm not stopping there. Of course, I'm not stopping there. Who knows where CTM will be in 10 years? Wow. This chart over here is showing Signal, Pure Fire and Signal. Its address is between a balance of 0.1 Bitcoin and 0.01 Bitcoin and 0.1 Bitcoin, right? What happened in El Salvador? They're taking on 20,000 new users a day. The rate of the growth of the Bitcoin network continues to outpace. It's growing faster than the internet was growing. It's significant signal. Are people thinking that perhaps the adoption is going to catch on over the next 4 or 5 months in such a way that it would lead to the last cycle, right? I'm interested to know when people say that, hey, this is this last cycle. Why? What data is appearing that's leading you to come to these conclusions so that we could talk about and have a discussion? But up until then, there's no question we have it the clearest. By following price and using the 4-year cycle and its waves as a model, so far we have it the most precise. We want to stay the most precise. That's why we want to consult all opinions. When you're looking right now, this is Bitcoin, and you can see the adoption is continuing now to outpace the growth of the internet when they're looking at synced up in time. This is when I believe, and this is around 2028, 2030, right? This is when I believe as the adoption curve is expected to flatten, whether that's around 3.7 billion users, right? And by the way, could we be at 1 billion users, and when will we be at 1 billion users, right? It's not too far off, and neither is by the time we get to the flattening of the curve. It's only approximately 8-9 years away. But it's 8-9 years away. That's significant time. You can't think that because in the future, we're going to be experiencing a lessening of the effect of the halving of the miner's reward, that would then lead to right now seeing something like diminishing returns either. I think it's something that needs to be talked about a lot more. It's what we're experiencing. So we want to have that laser precision. And that's getting it really wrong. That's what is that? 1-2 more halvings. We're going to look at it a little further. Let me jump into what Alan's talking about. I want to get into the good stuff first. Before we do, let's play some head snack. Alan Ow, here we go. Oh, the system audio is not triggering. Oh, that was a perfect lead in, and the system audio is not picking that up. No, here we go. We got it. You ready? Here we go.
markets, analyzing the charts, hitting projected targets within the margin. Find the flow, sip a matcha, and wait for the waves to come in with lobsters. The kind-hearted Jordan Fosters, working smarter, not harder to move the markers. On his way to conquer, trading and investing, drinking the coffee while reflecting on the blessing. The markets are not crashing, the prices might be slashing just to pretend they're in fashion. Hit the like button, comments, and smash it. Boom, boom, Jordan in the room. Grab the bull by the horns, off to the moon. Flow from the plateau, make the play. Boom, boom, it's a taco day.
It's a taco day. It's a taco day.
Oh, head snack. Feels good times. Head snack coming back on. Absolutely love it. So grateful for him doing that for all of us. You know, people are awesome. Alan, on yesterday's live stream, right? I asked if there's any on-chain data that could point to the current Bitcoin cycle being the last one. I'm really interested in this, you know? And then, so listen, Alan's like, all right, I looked into this. This is what we have. And it's Dilution Proof has come out with a great tweet on the subject. The key is when transaction fees become the key source of miners' revenue, right? And we talked about it. People say, what is going to happen after the miners obviously don't make enough money from mining the Bitcoin itself? And we talked about how transaction fees would cover that, and miners would be making more money than from the fees than finding the actual blocks or confirming the actual blocks. And Alan's saying, listen, Dilution Proof is taking a step further. And he's talking about why, listen, in short, there's a clear fundamental and rationale. And guys, you got it. Guys and girls, all of CTM, please always forgive my pronunciation. I try to get it as right as I can. But, listen, in short, there's a clear and fundamental rationale and empirical evidence for the existence of a 4-year cycle. If you cannot deny a 4-year cycle, and a lot of people are calling for it actually to break before it's broken. I think it's a little too premature. We'll see. But that cycle can be expected to fade out as block rewards decrease and fees hopefully take over. He's saying in the future that no longer will be the case. Right now, you cannot refute the fact that the 4-year cycle is taking place. And at some point in the future, we expect that will no longer be. Right? That happens to be also the base case here at CTM, right? That's all. Listen, he points out over here, this is as far as we might go. I just counted and said 2 more, right? And then we have 1, 2 more. It's at the exact same point that using transaction fees from a different angle, saying by the time that the miners are actually reaping more benefit from transaction fees than from mining Bitcoin itself, at that point, there'll be no supply shock at the halving of the event. And at that point, we will see diminishing returns and no longer a 4-year cycle. Bitcoin will trade much more off of supply and demand. And maybe some on-chain analysts think that at that point, they'll have the key to trading Bitcoin because of their awareness into, on-chain what's going on. Obviously not layer 2 and anything that's happening above the core layer, but nevertheless, they think that might be the edge. And it might be, I can't imagine that being a better edge than our price action TA, but we'll figure it out as we get there. That happens to also be where I think, because of the adoption curve, that price is going to start seeing diminishing returns. As we get towards the flattening of the curve, right? Around 2028, 2030, at that point, most of the price appreciation is priced in. Now, I don't know if you saw it or not. I might have it up here. Let's try to see if I have it up here. No, I don't. I could pull it up for you, though. Not tomorrow. Raul is pointing out, appropriately so, how there's another 100x potentially here on Bitcoin, right? As, it's not even right now, but almost a $1 trillion asset. Many believe, obviously including Raul, we'll take a look at it and why, that we're looking at Willy Woo also talking and moving his eyes ahead. And he's so good about that, moving his eyes towards Bitcoin becoming a $100 trillion asset, right? So there you go. Listen, Let's look at some of Alan's on-chain over here as he put in the work. And thank you for sending this, though. Thank you for sending this, Alan. I really, really enjoyed that this morning. I only got to look at it moments before getting on with all of you. Here we go. I'm trying to find the thread. I'm just going to go to Alan's profile. If you're not following Alan, you're missing out. You have to. And here we go. I'm looking for the most recent on-chain analytics. It starts over here. No, that's the end of the thread. The first thread is a Willy Woo chart. Let's check it out to spice things up. Right? First of all, on-chain metrics for this week, peak indicators. Bitcoin has exited its mid-cycle correction, right? Here's the advantage of Alan Au over others that are really trying to do well on-chain analytics. Alan has the awareness of his TA, right? He knows that Bitcoin is exiting its mid-cycle correction. He knew the whole time by following what was going on-chain that we were mid-cycle, and he held strong about it always. There were very few that got it strong and got it right. Alan was absolute signal and laser focused the whole way. It has neither peaked nor is it in a bear phase, right? To spice things up, I'm going to use Willy. I would love to have Alan on, weekly whenever he puts these out, or whenever, bi-weekly, whenever we get together to actually explain these charts as he sends them out. Because I would really enjoy that. He's using Willy Woo's price model, right, to show that Bitcoin has neither peaked nor is it. Look, it's the first time I'm looking at this chart. It says top in the green with the dotted lines over there. I don't really know what to make of it or the CVDD or anything like that. It reminds me, though, of the chart that I use over here, right? And I could say, yeah, well, the whole time we knew we were mid-cycle. We weren't in an accumulation area, and we weren't in a distribution area, take profit area, right? Yeah, so, we did that. We also talked about how, as we were coming down on the true trend, that the next wave, this wave coming up, that's starting now, should be bigger than this first wave, right? And it was going to be massive in relation. You could see that during Bitcoin's bull market, it has multiple waves, with the last wave being significantly bigger than the first wave. So is that what we're looking at? Well, that was and is what we expect. So I don't know. You look around and you're looking for different models. People are showing, hey, listen, you could follow every on-chain analytic here and then assess them a number so that when you're showing, this is what the CBBI, Ted was letting me know about this. And if Ted's interested in it, I'm interested in it. And it shows you that overall during mid-cycle, the confidence was at or here we go. Before we peaked out on the first wave, that the confidence was a 75. It's a high number, but at no point in the past has Bitcoin's price peaked out with such a low number, right? It's usually much higher, whether that's, it gets as high as in the 96 all the way to 100. And then over there at 85, is this leading us to believe at any point in time from on-chain data? And it takes everything into account, including the pi cycle top indicator, right? Including the Pure multiple, too, that we consult and or consulted, right? The R-holder ratio, really good one, right? Even consulting things like the golden ratio. So this is going to start going lower as we start getting past September, the middle of September. That's going to, because we're getting out of that range. By the time we're in December, this should be pretty low, but everything else should be giving a high number. I'm looking for an edge anytime I could find an edge. I don't think that this is it for me, though. I don't think that by the way, Keith, I saw this post right before going live as well, right? Beginner's luck or CTM. I picked up fast because of my technology career, but I did very well during the crash every time it hit below 32. This is coming off of me saying, listen, I know that the silent majority bought the dip into and off of $30,000. Nobody did it better than here at CTM, right? Black Diamond, by the way, the on-chain analytics guys did a superb job, whether it was William, especially maintaining his bullishness, dealing with all of those trolls, the amount of people just completely shedding that negativity. And he held strong, believing that Bitcoin was mid-cycle the whole time, as did Willy Woo, right? And obviously we all know, but the only one that I was following was Alan, really. And Alan was consistent the whole time, that everything that says that we were also, mid-cycle over here. Black Diamond CTM positioned in with leverage, experts only. I know what's up, and I've seen it, and it's awesome, right? I accumulated and sold for a 15% profit regardless of where price went. I did it several times. Brandon, Crypto Jedi, chats and teamwork helped also. Listen, CTM, the best there ever was. By the way, understanding the value of buying from support and how to place sell limits at resistance levels was very key for me. Without this, before finding CTM, I was literally blind and going from my gut feeling. I sold my winners a lot and I bought too early often. Thanks, Jordan and CTM. Thanks, Keith. Thanks. I responded to that, didn't I? Hold on one second. Got to find it over here. Oh, I retweeted it. Hold on one second. I want to share it with those who didn't see it yet, right? CTM is truly a team working together, everybody contributing in their own way, building up those around them, leading to the greater collective level for everyone. And that's why I started this in the first place. If you go back and you watch the videos from 2019, October, November, I said, listen, the more that I spend time with all of you and talk about everything that I've learned over the past 20 years in my career, can you imagine that it's just going to continue to help build everyone up? And then it's going to provide this feedback loop, right? Where it's going to be iron sharpens iron, and it's going to really help me progress. Here we are a year and a half later. I can't believe what we continue to accomplish here. So this is right here. I've seen other models out there. If you're looking for a long-term accumulation model, this is it. But let's take a look at this on the 12-hour. People talking about that we're getting a cross of the true trend on the 12-hour time frame. Let me zoom in over here. I don't know what broker you're using. Listen, here's how it works. Let me get off the log. Here's how it works. Whatever chart you're using, just trade what's on that chart yourself. Whatever chart that you're using, trade what's on that chart. If you're using different data feeds, you could have different, different crosses and whatever. Just trade what's on your chart. I don't see a cross occurring right now. I saw a cross occur yesterday. That was a buy on Bitcoin. If you're following this strategy, if you go to the Bitcoin playlist, you will see it's called Beginner Strategy. It was put out, I believe, in 2019, the 12-hour time frame with the true trend BTC on it. And it's a fantastic strategy. It's probably a better strategy than the majority of the investment banks out there are using, than the majority of the family offices. You could follow it, and it's okay. It's good, right? But I said it before it happened that, listen, by the time that this got people out that are nervous, right? The ones that were nervous were getting out. I talk about also in the tutorial of the true trend on the Forex playlist, how using this as an opportunity to accumulate when the true trend BTC goes negative. If you know the behavior of an asset, that's where I was looking to accumulate and buy. If you were getting on the sidelines, I said that when you got back in, it would be at a higher price. Nevertheless, that's noise. If you're talking about $3,000 or $5,000 at Bitcoin, between $45,000 in that range, it's noise. You're looking to capture the majority of the move. This protected you from the crisis, the dollar liquidity crisis, very well. It got you long at the right time. What was it, $8,000, right? And then exiting at $40,000. It's okay. We could do a lot better than that, though, right? This is beginners, and for most, it's the most effective strategy, right? But if you're following this strategy, you had to not only buy back in right here, you exited the next day. So you bought in at 46,000 next 12 hours later, as you got the close of the histogram below zero. So you're on the sidelines waiting, right? And then you have to take each signal as they occur. You don't get too many crosses of indecision, right? I'm looking for the last one that happened, or the last time there was any type of indecision where the histogram goes back and forth a few times. It normally happens during the bear market where you're not using that. That's why having the advantage of the Fourier cycle and its 3 phases, the bull market phase, the bear market phase, and then the accumulation stage, which runs the halving event to do it all again. It's Tuesday. Good morning, everyone. If you haven't yet, please go ahead and smash the like button. If you don't know what I'm talking about and you're interested in it, just go to the playlist on the channel. Go to the Bitcoin 4-year playlist and look for I talk about the beginner strategy, and then follow what's going on. It is a really good strategy. We are just able to be a lot more accurate. That's all. Is there anything else that we didn't cover? No, we crushed it. We nailed it. Let's take a look at the price of Bitcoin right now. Look, this trend line I have over here, like if you were a hyper aggressive trader and we broke this to the downside, is that something that you should be looking to take, right? Should you take like the entry on the break with your stop loss there? Is that, risk to reward ratio coming into this area of support attractive enough? Listen, if it breaks, I do think it's going to get faded. I think it's going to get faded. For me, it's not worth attacking there for even to hedge or take profit or anything. For myself, my time preference, as you know, is a lot lower, but I think higher, I should say. But listen, a break below this one over here, that's something that I would say, I'm very concerned about. I'm making sure I'm on the right side of that, protecting myself. If we break that area, that trend line of support, we then could be trading much lower. At that point, there's a good chance we test in that 32,000 area and or break to a new mid-cycle low. If we broke to a new mid-cycle low, we would have to be lining up the past cycles to that new point, wherever it was, right? That's how it works. It's lining them up for the last portion, the double wave into liftoff, the last 150 days, lining them up from that cycle low. Now, I don't think this happens. Now that we've broken out from the most important trend line of crypto, the odds that mid-cycle low is in is very strong. Now, some people wonder which date they should use. Are they using the 20th or the 22nd? You can see that price over here, the intraday peak coming down on June the 22nd. We've talked about it before, that we use the close, on the specifically on the Brave New Coin, the BLX, right? So it's same thing though, July the 22nd. So I'm not sure where that was coming from, where people were talking about why we should. Let me move over to the BLX. The ramblings, Jordan. BLX has it like that. This is the data that we use. We have to stay consistent with the data that we're using. We have over here the low close on July the 20th. If you're looking intraday, you can use intraday on this, right? Yeah, intraday over here. There's the confusion. July the 22nd, June the 22nd intraday is showing that lowest price point. But here for CTM modeling crew, it has been from the beginning. We confirmed that when we talked about it. We use the close on BLX. We're staying consistent with our data, finding that is the best way to find yourself from curve fitting going forward. That's a mouthful, right? Hey man, I politely asked you something. Hey man, I politely asked you something. All right, everyone. We have in 30 minutes over there, we're going live for our CTM training session. I'm going to get ready for that right now, right? And then I'll see you all in a half hour as we go live. We'll talk about all markets. We'll talk about all of the currency markets. We'll look at gold, silver, the S&P 500 and NASDAQ. And we'll be taking a look at not only Ethereum, but maybe some of the alts as well. I'll see you all in a little bit. Have a beautiful day, but before we close this epic session out, I'm doing it with some honeymoon. All right. Thanks, everyone. Thanks, John. John, if you're not following John K on Twitter, get on it right now. CTM all day long. Alan, continuing to bring the fire. there are two true trends that you could pull up from TradingView. One is the true trend. That's what we use for our normal trading. And then for Bitcoin, we use the true trend BTC. There are two different ones. One's using the 770 period with the 3-period entry CCI. The other one, the true trend BTC, is using the 333 period. Make sure that you have the right one on depending on what you're trading. Let me check this out on the with the normal true trend. Yes, listen, if you're trading Bitcoin, off the 8-hour time frame, off the 4-hour time frame, Brandon is really key to pick up. It is a fast moving market. Trading it on the 4-hour when it has momentum makes a lot of sense. Brandon continuing to add so much value, building off what we do over here. And if you're following Bitcoin over here and you're using the true trend as a guide, especially if you saw in the CTM recommended playlist, the first pullback and the lesson we did on the first pullback. I mean, this is getting you in Bitcoin over here, but you still want to ride it out and push it. Like, I think that you don't need to have such a short time preference on Bitcoin to do extraordinary things. I don't know if, many people out there, the whole interweb here, have had a better performance than myself during the Bitcoin bull market run, focused solely on Bitcoin. That's including Ethereum's outperforming massively, but if you're trading Ethereum, even with a little bit of leveraged, it's been difficult lately. It's been very difficult. Listen, I don't know. Be careful out there. We'll talk more in a little bit. All right. I'll see you all as we get started in 27 minutes for our CTM live session. We'll take it further, continuing this conversation.